So my name is Caitlin McConnell, and I'm here with Jerry Rader, longtime leader of the Black Oak Cemetery Association in rural Webster County, Missouri. Today's date is October 2nd, 2024, and we are at the Black Oak Freewill Baptist Church, which is adjacent to the cemetery. This conversation is part of Buried History, an oral history collection produced by Missouri State University Libraries and Ozarks Alive. So thank you again for letting me come visit with you.
Okay.
Can you kind of start off and just tell us a little bit about the Cemetery Association? Like, what does it exist to help do?
Well, some of our main part is just, you might say, mowing, keep them mowed, and like our driveways, if they need gravel or something, getting that done. And we're set up, we got money that people donated and everything, and we got what we call a working fund. In other words, on it, the way it's set up, we can, if we think you need gravel, we can get the gravel as long as it's out of the working fund. But our funds that we got set up, like CDs and stuff, the whole board has to have a meeting and decide where to pull money out of that and put in the operating fund or how to do it, where to put it out and how much.
Well, how old is the association? Has it been around for a long time?
No, the association's probably been around, I couldn't tell you the exact year, probably, well, I know it's been probably early 90s.
Okay. Before that, did people just, how did things get done?
Donald Beck up there was in it pretty much. Lloyd Cliff. They wasn't really association or anything, they just more or less upon themselves. Warren Beck, before the association, he was part of the association when it came about, and but he helped out here at the cemetery, and Paul Clift. He wanted to get it set up, the association,
so it wouldn't be relying on just a few people.
And like I said, we got president, vice president, treasurer, and I think there's 3 or 4 regular board members. I can't hardly remember, I'm getting where my memory don't work as good as it used to, but anyway, we're set up and we have a meeting once a year, generally in April. We like to get everything before Memorial Day, so if there's anything that people has or anything that they think needs just something, attention to it, we have that meeting and we work off of donations. And about our biggest expense that's every year is mowing, and it's not that bad really, and I think our mower does a good job, and it keeps the cemetery looking good. And one thing we done after the association got in, the cemetery wasn't plotted off or anything. They just went out there and picked out a spot, and you could tell in the center part.
Kind of all haphazard.
Yeah, and but that was not too long after they formed the board. That we got a guy to come in and plot it out for us, and I got a book. It's got all the plots in it, and there's some family members and stuff that maybe don't have a plot, and I reserve a plot for them if they wanted, you know. And then if somebody, you know, just, now we got, most of the people buried out here is either family or come to church or live close to the community.
Well, and so how does it normally work? I mean, do most people reserve them in advance, or are there still times when somebody passes away and they just call you?
Well, sometimes somebody passes away and sometimes there's family, but they haven't reserved. And I try to get them as close to their family as I can, but sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it's a problem, you know, you'll think you got plots and you'll maybe assign, reserve one for somebody, and cause the family's not contacted you or anything. And I always get them as close as I can. We had one burial not too long ago that I managed to get them close.
About how many burials do you have a year? Just approximate.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of varies. But I'm saying probably between 5 and 10 maybe a year in this cemetery.
And so when somebody passes away, is it at that point like the people with the backhoe contact you? Does the funeral home contact you? Like, how does that process work in terms of them actually being buried?
A lot of times, both the funeral homes in Marshfield have my name. And when somebody's going to be buried out here, they'll give me a call and tell me when they're going to be buried. And I got some reinforced rod. I'll come out and measure it off and stake it and have it ready. Generally, like if I have a burial in the afternoon, generally on the morning of that they're going to have the funeral in the afternoon, it's when they come out and dig the grave.
Okay.
They might, if it's going to be like at 10 o'clock or something in the morning, they might come out in the afternoon before and dig it. It all depends on the timing. And like I said, I just come down here and mark it out. And sometimes when they go to put a monument up, sometimes some of the monument companies will call me and because they don't know where the grave's at, want me to like put some stakes or down something so they know what's the grave.
Well, and so tell me a little bit again about how you got involved with this in the first place.
Well, of course, like I said, I've lived here all my life. And they used to, back when I was growing up, they didn't have grave diggers, what I mean, you know, funeral homes or anything. Of course, it's just about everybody worked on the farm. Somebody in the community passed away. The neighbors and all that, they just come down and dig your grave. And I wasn't really big enough to help in the digging, but I've been down here and there'd probably be 10 or 15 men down here digging a grave. And it wasn't that big a job, you know, with that many people. They could swap off. And it was just kind of like a visiting time too, because, you know, they all knew one another. But they didn't see one another that much, so they'd dig the grave and visit while they was doing the digging. Swap off.
Like logistically, I'm trying to picture how that worked. Would it be like there'd be a guy down in the hole, like digging and throwing the dirt out, and the other guys would just be kind of around where the hole was, or?
Well, I think sometimes when they got started, they had two guys, one with a pick down in there loosening the dirt, and they had one guy down there, and they'd go for a little bit, and then they'd step out, and two more, however they had it set up. They just went around, and everybody took turns. And really, they had enough people. Generally, they didn't really work that hard to dig a grave. And I know probably in late 80s, early 90s, they decided they wanted to try to just dig the graves again. But they couldn't get them because they didn't show up like they did.
Oh.
I helped dig maybe 2 or 3, and there wasn't but about 2 or 3 of us that dug it. That's quite a chore.
Well, and so you said like in the late 80s, early 90s, was that just because people thought they wanted to start the tradition again, or how did that kind of start?
Well, of course, I think one reason at the time was when the funeral home, when the grave diggers they had, Jesse Graves dug down here for a long time. Of course, they charged. And the way it was back there when it was going up, there was no charge for the grave digging. People just took it on themselves. And that's kind of the reason, but it just didn't work out right because it just wasn't enough people. It's like it was back when I was a kid, it would have went over, you know.
Back when you were a kid, how did people find out that someone had passed away? Was it just that people word of mouth?
Kind of word of mouth, you know what I mean. And some people, we never did have, but some people had old telephones, the old crank type telephone. And then down at the old Bracken store, they generally, people in and out there, they generally knew. And of course, Dad be down there quite a bit, you know. And then, of course, they had the Marshfield mail. Of course, we didn't take it a lot, but different people did. And it always had who passed away. The problem with it was sometimes you miss a funeral because the time it come out in the paper, like they had somebody's between Wednesday and the time the next paper come out, they had their funeral. You didn't get your paper till Wednesday. Maybe somebody was buried on Monday or Tuesday. You didn't know it. I missed 1 or 2 funerals I would like to come to just for that particular reason. I looked and saw it in the paper, but it's already over.
Well, and back when you were growing up too, were most of the funerals at, like here at Black Oak, were they at the church or were they actually still at, I mean, did you go to things in people's homes sometimes too?
They never, back when I was growing up, now back before, I've heard them talk that like somebody, if somebody was sick and they'd set up with them that's sick, and neighbors and stuff would come around and swap off setting up, you know. And then they kept the body at home. And they had people up for the body, and then they just brought them. I imagine at that time, I'm not real sure about this, but I'd say probably they brought them to the church building and had the funeral, or maybe graveside, I'm not sure. But when I was growing up, they had some funerals here at the church, but they still had, when I was up, they had funeral homes then. And a lot of them was, most of them were, biggest percentage was held at the funeral home, and they delivered them out.
Okay, and then they just come back here for
burial. And they'd have a little kind of graveside service, maybe like 10 minutes maybe, or something like that, before they lowered them in the grave.
Well, so I'm thinking back when people were hand digging graves, I'm assuming at this point they weren't using vaults, or were they?
No, back in the 50s and back there, they just had a plyboard. Put a plyboard box in, and they had it all cut out. And when they lowered the casket, they put a lid, plyboard lid over it, But the problem with that, after so long, the water and everything, that plywood rotted and the graves settled down. I remember one year, it was really wet one spring, and man, there was graves all over the cemetery. Some of them dropped that far.
Wow.
Of course, you know, it had probably that much room over the top of the casket.
Yeah.
And really, I thought at one time it's probably like, you know, they got all the environmental stuff, that is probably mandatory to have a vault, but it really wasn't as far as it. But we as a cemetery board voted to have vaults. And of course, like here, it's more or less up to the family, you know, to grow grass and, you know, and kind of take care of their loved ones' graves, you know. And with them after that, as long as you let them.
Yeah, because the vault lid can't do anything else.
Once it gets packed down, settled, it's pretty much going to stay there.
How long ago did you all start requiring the vaults? Was that about when the association started, probably?
Yeah, not too long after. It might have been, well, like I said, I just thought, you know, it was required, you know, till I had a family come and said, you require a vault? And I think I said, well, we generally, but it really wasn't in the bylaws, you know. I said, I said I'd check with them. So I called Gary Fraker, you know, of course I knew Gary real well. I said, is the state thing, a law or something that you have to have a vault? He said, no, it's not a state law.
Wow.
So that's when we got together and met, the board got together and decided we need the vault because we knew how the graves held up after the vault, you know.
Well, so you've been on the board pretty much since it started, or has it been when it started?
Yeah, I was on it ever since the start of it.
Well, kind of based on what you've seen over the years and what you see now, you know, I worry about some cemeteries kind of being forgotten, not Black Oaks, but in general when I drive around. Do you have any concerns about the cemetery going forward, or do things all just seem like they're all pretty good?
Well, right now, the things I kind of worry about the younger generation, are they going to step up? And I've heard, I don't know how true it is, that a cemetery, if there's nobody to take care of it, the county's. But now I don't know for sure about that. But the thing that concerns me is, it seems like the younger generation, I'm not putting them down, don't get me wrong, but they just don't show the interest that the older generations did. Like my age, well, even some younger than me, you know, but it's just like pissing the graves and stuff. Don't seem like they do that like they used to.
Well, that was one thing I was going to ask you again about for this interview, was about Decoration Day and what you remember about that growing up.
Well, growing up, when they had it on the 30th day of May, that's when the day was. They didn't have the 3-day weekends or something and have it called Memorial Day like the 28th or 29th or something like that. When it was on the 30th, seemed like people always looked scheduled that day. Of course, people didn't work out on jobs like they do now. In this community especially, it was mostly farmers. And I never did take part in that. I wasn't old enough, but I just remember like my mom and some of them said on Memorial Day, they bring like, they call them sawhorses. They bring them down and they bring some boards and put over it in a tablecloth and just have a dinner.
Yeah.
And people would gather and sometimes they'd even do some work on the cemetery, just if they thought something needed done, they'd do it that day. And a lot of times they didn't, but a lot of times it was a time of visiting and seeing people that maybe once a year is all you seen them. And they would come and visit, and I've been down here on Memorial Day. Mom and Dad used to come right after noon, and we'd stay till milk time. And you could get down here, and there'd be groups of people. They might be, I'm guessing a lot of times there might have been 40 or better people or better down here.
Wow.
And different kind of family groups. They'd be under a shade tree over here somewhere all around the business.
Wow.
And it was a big day, and now, since they changed everything around, by the time even where they celebrate Memorial Day now, by the time that comes around, about everybody's already been. They'll start on the week before, the middle of the week before, and there'll be some down about every day, and then by the time on Monday gets around, there might be a few in the morning, and then it's done by afternoon. So it's just changed, you know.
Well, and I didn't know that people used to, well, I knew people came together on Decoration Day, but I didn't know that, you know, you and your parents would stay in the afternoons like that, like you do now, which is really neat too.
Yeah, that's we come down maybe like 1 o'clock or something like that. We stayed probably till 4:30. We generally started milking about 5 or 5:30 or something. And so we'd stay up until about time to get ready to go milk. And we go milk the cows, you know, and stuff. But like I said, the only day really they put flowers on the cemetery was on the 30th day of May.
So you knew when to be here.
And that's just kind of the tradition they all went by. But like I said, when they changed Memorial Day around, it seemed like that changed all that too.
Well, and so now you come down here pretty much the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, right?
Yeah.
Different parts of the day.
Yeah, and sometimes I maybe come down for a while on Friday afternoon, like they come out here. And I come down here to visit, and then some people want to leave a donation. We got a place to send it, but a lot of them want to leave it for me, and I just take it and turn it into our treasure and get it put in our bank in the cemetery account.
Well, and I just thought about this too. Is the church and the cemetery completely separate entities, or are they? Okay. So, like legally, they operate independently from each other.
Yeah. Well, it's like our churchyard and everything, and the cemetery. The same God mows both of them. But the cemetery pays for our part, the cemetery part, and the church pays for the churchyard part.
And I guess, not that I hope this never happens, but if the church didn't operate at some point, then the cemetery could still be operating.
We're a separate entity. In fact, under the Cemetery Association Board, the land's all deeded to them.
Just kind of from what you hear around, do most rural cemeteries have associations, or are there still some that just kind of operate based on somebody who kind of takes care of them?
I'm not really familiar, but kind of the ones I know about, they've got kind of, I know Coatning has got a board. I think Mission Home and Welch. But I'd say, what I hear, I think most of the cemeteries anymore is kind of under a board or association. They've got designated people that look after it.
I mean, it's kind of, like you said, just a symptom of the changing times, but, you probably didn't have to worry about that as much in the past because you had people who just lived around here for their whole lives and didn't move away, and as people often do now, but now you need to make sure you have somebody connected with it who's going to be interested in it.
Yeah, well, that is getting to be a problem, I tell you, there's probably more people that live, well, like Springfield, and I know some of even Kansas City in some places, that people that don't live close.
Mm-hmm.
And then they work out, they got jobs and stuff. And it just so happened, I was back on the farm when I took over. I wasn't working 10-hour days, and stuff. And so that's how I got into it.
Well, they're fortunate to have you.
Well, I don't know about that, but like I said, I think there's another or two that would fill in, now if something happened. And of course, like I said, when you're almost 80 years old, why, you don't know what's going to happen, As long as I feel like I do now, and I'm able to get around, got some of my faculty still around, I'll probably stick with it, But I would, if somebody younger was really take the interest to take care of it, I would retire. I think I told you one time, it's job security. You have job security. It's over like a kind of the marriage vow until death do you part.
Well, we kind of talked about it at the beginning, but just to circle back, like basically the cemetery board oversees the plots, and you said it's just by donation. Nobody pays a set amount. Would you let somebody get buried for free if they didn't have money, or is that kind of a?
Well, they call it. What do they call it? They got a name.
Like indigent?
Huh?
Is it indigent?
Well, it's I can't think of the name of it now. Potter's Field.
Oh yeah.
They call it that. And I got a call one time. This person passed away. They didn't have no money, and they couldn't come up with any relatives or anything. And they said, they asked if Val wanted to be buried here. And I thought, I didn't want to get took advantage of. What I mean, I didn't want all of them, And the funeral directors told me, no, I said, it's not that. Said, we got some cemeteries and said, we just pass it around. I told them, yeah, I would take it. And really, the funeral home tore just about all of it. They tore it all. They paid for the grave digging and the burial, and they even bought a marker for it.
Wow.
And so, like I said, that was good of them,
Yeah.
But they had to do something with them.
Yeah.
And they searched for family or anything, and they could not come up with anybody, for them. And I don't remember even where he was really from, But he was around here when he passed away.
For people who, plan to get buried out here, is there a suggested donation for a plot, or is it just
whatever they want to give? And really, we get quite a little bit at Memorial Day. And then, if families that's got somebody they're going to bury out here, they don't go for flowers like they used to. They'll, in lieu of flowers, donation. And so they've been different ones that they'll put up in lieu of flowers if they wish to make a donation back to the we'll say the Black Oak Cemetery. It's not just Black Oak, but a lot of cemeteries they'll have, and I know my mailbox is off the road quite a bit, so if the funeral homes, if they get donations turned into the funeral home, that's generally where they turn them in, you know. I had them just give me a call, because I'm in town a lot. I just come out there and get it. Because you hear so much stuff about breaking in mailboxes and stuff, so I just have them keep it, because like I said, some of it would be cash, you know. And I remember one time, we used to have a mailbox out here. And that's just shortly after I got involved. Come down here one day and that mailbox is missing.
Oh.
And I didn't know what had happened to it. And we found it over east here. You know that lane that went off the curb up here, that went up by the Alexander place up there? They used to call it, I think, Lover's Lane or something. But up in there, they found it in the ditch.
Oh.
When I told some of them, I don't know, of course, it wasn't just right at Memorial Day, but sometimes we check the box every once in a while. And I told them, I said, I think we just need to do away with that mailbox. I said, I don't care if it ain't $10 in there. I don't want nobody coming down and getting a mailbox and stealing the money that's meant for the cemetery.
Yeah.
And so we done away with the mailbox.
Do you have a rough guess of how many people are buried in the cemetery?
No, not really. Don't, if I was guessing, I'm just pretty deep.
That's all right. Do you have any, I've been hearing through these interviews that cremations are becoming, a lot more common. Do you have any, ashes that are interred out here too, or is it?
Several.
Okay. Have you seen that increasing out here too?
Yes. Yes, until about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, there wasn't a cremation out here. And now I'd say there's probably so far 15 or 20 cremations out here in the cemetery.
Wow.
It all comes down to price. But I mean, it's a lot cheaper. I've heard now that funerals is up around $10,000 or right at that. And it was, a cremation was around 2,000 or less, And
big difference.
Yeah. And of course, like I said, if they have a service at the funeral home, there's a rental charge they have there. And they even have more graveside services than they used to, because they go through the funeral home for the other part, but they cut out the auditorium part there. So, and then of course, COVID changed a lot of things too. They have a lot. I believe they're getting back to more in the funeral home than they did there for a while, but right at the middle of COVID, everywhere was a graveside. They just didn't have the funeral home because they didn't want to congregate.
Yeah, you want to be outside.
Yeah, so this next thing, everything I know for better or worse, but things change.
Well, I was about ready to say we'll have to just wait and see what happens next, but yeah it's.
And like I said, it's not, in a way, as far as the things that go to the cemetery, it's not changed that much. Of course, and then a lot of people with a cremation, that takes out the vault and the grave digging. The family can come out. You don't have to have it just a hole about that deep and about so big. So a lot of times the families, we just got to where if they're going to bury ashes, we need to be contacted so we can, you know.
In that situation, is it like a grave digger where the backhoe still comes and digs it, or can you have a smaller, you could just take a hand shovel and...
Yeah, you take like a bar and a hand shovel. It's probably about I'd say 12-inch square, and maybe down 20 inches or a little better.
So you're back to the home done digging.
Yeah. Generally the families, they will, some come out and dig it, but I don't know, that's probably been 25 years ago. They was charging $70, $75 just to dig that little hole.
Wow.
And, well, I remember one time, I'm trying to think, I don't even remember who it was now. Oh, I think it's my cousin was cremated. And so I thought I'd dig, but I didn't know the
Specifics or anything.
Yeah, so I don't remember where I called or stopped in and talked to Breakers was handling and talked to Gary and Dale was there. And I just told them I just wanted to know what about the size of the hole and how deep it needed to be. And they kind of gave me, and old Dale spoke up, said, give me a call when you're going to dig it, you know, and everything. Said, I'll just come out and help you. So old Dale, he was my buddy. He came out and helped me. They was good guys, you know, Gary. Of course, they still do. They like to aggravate me right there. They tell stories about the sheriff was looking for me. Just stuff like that going on, you know. But like I said, I can't say they really had any really big problems, you know.
It sounds like it's pretty straightforward with the graves and the mowing and...
Yeah, well, we got a board down there that's really got the bylaws and everything on it. And it's also got down there where people want to, they come out here at the cemetery and they want to make a donation. It's got an address where they can send it. And
you said you meet once a year. You all meet once a year.
Once a year, unless something comes up that we need to call a special meeting, we can call a special meeting anytime we need it. And I think it might have been over the fall since I've been doing it. Just really been something come up. We just had one kind of like a special meeting of the board.
Are most of the board members people who still live fairly close by?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, one there's west of Marshfield, and one's over. Well, it's connected to the Hawkins. Lives over out east of Niagara, and he's kind of on the board at Copeland too.
Oh, really?
But he's got family buried there, and but on his mom's side and everything, there's several buried here at Black Oak. He always managed to come to the. In fact, I think he's vice president. He managed to come to the cemetery meeting. And he's willing to get in. He's got made up a plat book for him, so he's got out there and everything. I need to get with him again, bring it up to date probably. But
was there anything I didn't ask you about all this that you think needs to be mentioned?
No, I think you've done a good job. But I mean, I can't think anything, different.
Well, thank you for taking the time to visit. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, and like I said, I'll probably be doing it for a while.
Well, I hope so.